Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Igniting Hope Radio. I am your host, Sherman Webb-Middlebrooks, a lifelong Buffalo resident and full-time Black man. And this podcast is sponsored by the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. I want to thank you all for joining our conversation today. Make sure you click the like button, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share this, and get in the comments and let us know what you think about the conversation that we have in here today. Today on our show, I have a good brother, somebody who is moving and shaking in our community, very visible, very active in our community. The good brother Mark Talley. So, brother Mark, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and let the folks know a little bit about yourself.
All right, no problem. Name Mark Talley, Executive Director, Agents for Advocacy, author of 514, Day the Devil Came to Buffalo. Full-time Black man is myself, born and raised east side of Buffalo, Maston Parks, Cold Springs, cup of coffee in Langfield.
A cup of coffee out there too when I was a kid. I like that. I like that. Cool, cool. Okay. So yeah, let's just get right into the conversation. Because there's a lot of things that I feel like we gonna get around to talking about. But first and foremost, we'd like to ask our guests, what does health and healthy living look like to you?
You know what, barring any unfortunate accidents, being able to see your children grow up. Unfortunately, especially here in the Black community, you have a lot of older Black gentlemen. Unfortunately, they died from things that other ethnicities don't die from as they get older. We have a lot of undiagnosed/diagnosed illnesses, whether it be diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure. One of the main killers for Black men over the age of 50 is prostate cancer. So health equity to me is just being able just to grow old, watching being able to grow up, watch your children grow up, watch your family mature, you and your friends grow up from 20s, 30s, 40s, all the way to your 60s and 70s.
Yeah. So I like that idea. That's a different answer than we usually get. That's why I like to ask different people the same question just to get the difference in feedback. So no, I dig that answer. I can identify with that too. Definitely wanna it's a privilege being able to grow old with your folks. I'm in my 30s. So it's cool having a few 15, 20-year friendships with people that you've known and been around who know you and understand you. And I think that's a underrated aspect of our health, our social health, right? They're talking about, I do a lot of work in the mental health space, and they're saying like this generation of men is a lonely generation. And I don't really get it with all the social media that we have, cars, FaceTime, different things like that, where we can stay connected. But I think um, it's a matter of quality over quantity. So we might have quantity of relationships, but how deep and meaningful is the quality of those relationships? So I definitely could dig that as a form of equity. So appreciate that. Cool.
Yeah, I get it. A lot of people have these Facebook relationships. You've been best friends with somebody on Facebook for 10 years.
Yeah.
Really, y'all ain't trying to link up. Like that strong brotherhood that comes from growing up with people when you were, single digit years, high school years, even college years. I'm 35, just turned 35 myself. I'm fortunate enough that, I'm still best friends with, people I've known since I was, 14 and 15.
Yeah, and that's a privilege. I had one friend tell me, one of my best friends from college. He was a military kid, and when he came to Buffalo for school, they recruited him from a base, his military base. His family was in Germany, and Little Duville went out there recruiting recruiting folks, and he ended up coming to Duville, and I remember bringing him to the hood, bringing him to the projects, taking him around my family, just taking him, just being my boy. We just hanging out, and then one day he was like, "Man, when did you meet such and such? When did you meet?" And I'm like, bro, I don't even remember when I met these people. I just know them like my whole life. He was like, wow, every 4 or 5 years since I was a kid. Like, I don't have no deep friendships like that. He like, you probably like my longest friend, and we just met 2 years ago in college. I was like, dang, bro, like that's crazy. Like that's crazy, but like the perspective of like me being like on like, at the time I'm living on Davidson, so me being living in poverty on the east side, and my boy, he come from means. His family been in the Air Force. At that point, over 25 years, his mom, his dad, and his stepdad. So he had a little bit of means. And I just remember thinking like, wow, here I am, like wondering what it's like to like have a life of means and like, have access to different resources like he got, admiring that. And here he is just admiring the fact that I got these long lasting friendships. So I think like perspective is everything when it comes to stuff like that, you know? Yeah. But I definitely want to get into this first question here that I got for you. So the first question that I have for you is what you talked about being an author, and this is where I really want to get into that. So what would you say is the issue or area or product that you're working on? And how did you get started on that?
What was the first question?
So what would you say is like your issue or area or project that you're working on, and how and why did you get started doing that?
The main, it's a multiple projects that I'm in. It's to, community advocacy work, socioeconomic, systemic racism. I'm trying to dip my toe now in politics. I'm pretty sure most people know all this came from what happened, 5/14, with my mother being a victim that day. And from there, it's hard to believe two years have flown by this past. I'm trying to move as fast as I can in all of these areas so I can just uplift my people, uplift my community. Because when you start really tell people, when you start really being behind the scenes of stuff that goes on here in the city that you weren't privy to previously, you can see how interconnected everything is in this city. You see how people move. You see the relationships people have. You see how one relationship you are with this person that's doing stuff in advocacy work. You see how they hate somebody else in advocacy work. And it's like I always said, if we could have like a college hill type, a college hill environment of community leaders, so people can see everything that goes on truly behind the scenes, it would be amazing if people realize, these people don't rock like this. You may see them taking all these pictures on Facebook, shouting each other out. They ready to stump each other.
Yeah.
And once you just see the political dynamics, social dynamics, the economic dynamics, it just makes you feel sad how like you can argue since the 60s or 50s, how bad the east side of Buffalo has become, and how it was planned for it to be that way.
Yeah.
Systemic policy after policy put in place. The fact that it just shows you how they really don't care about black people in the city. If they could just come in and say, all right, okay, Humboldt, here, we know y'all like it here. Forget all this. We're going to put this highway right here because we know white people don't want to be in this area because they're afraid of it.
Get in and get out. They want to get downtown and get back,
Mm-hmm.
get in and get out. Yeah, that's so no, that's some real powerful work, and some real perspective that you share. And I think a lot of times folks are playing the political game and are too afraid to say the things that like you just said it as candidly as you just said it, because I think we all notice it, we all see it, um as far as folks like playing like they cool and doing all that on social media, but be
Mm-hmm.
willing to step on somebody's neck just to get something funded or just to get something approved. And it's weird, how some people get jaded and how some people change from putting the people first to putting their pockets first. You know what I'm saying? Or putting the position that they want to be in first. People lose sight of that. And that's one thing that I try to be as mindful of as possible. Um, I guess as I continue to grow in age and in connection and in influence. Just making sure that I maintain my integrity and that I keep the main thing, and remember why I got into this in the first place. So I really appreciate you lifting that up. So I would say, like, I guess a follow-up question to that is getting into like the political field a little bit more, having your voice heard, making sure like your mother's legacy stays relevant, making sure that the 514 tragedy is never forgotten. What would you say? I mean, outside of that, would be like some of your mission goals? Like, what's the overall big picture and goal of all this work that you put in there?
Overall, big picture is to have the east side of Buffalo like these suburbs here. You know, every negative statistic, whether education, health, east side of Buffalo is leading. Whether it's from, highest cancer rates. Hey, east side of Buffalo, we got the majority of our houses was built in the 60s, 70s. A lot of asbestos, a lot of lead paint. When it comes to education, we're the worst. We have some of the lowest amount of funding put into our district, which leads to, 1 out of every 2 black men you meet on the east side of Buffalo, chances are they don't have no high school diploma or GED. You look in the households there, majority single family households. And if you have, and the majority of these single parent households, unfortunately, are led by mothers, which then gives a negative stereotype that, all black men are good for is getting girls pregnant and leaving. And this creates just a generational cycle, a poverty cycle, and a consistent stereotypes on black men and women in the black family, which causes, unfortunately, generational trauma. Like the stuff we're worried about on the east side of Buffalo, you think the folks in Clarence is worried about the same
Nope,
stuff? No.
nope.
And the thing is, you can just see it. That's like you can just drive down Humboldt Bay. Well, you can't even drive down Bailey or Broadway no more because now you have other ethnicities coming in and buying up property of people in that community should have, but unfortunately, we can't work together, which creates another stereotype in which black people are constantly like, what's the old saying? Crabs in a bucket, crabs in a barrel. And then when you go to some of these events, you just see a band of black men working together doing stuff, and it's like, how can we do it here, but we can't do it how they're doing it?
Right,
And it's like, I'm when I see like Daniel Robertson, Chantel Lynette, Antoine Johnson, I see the stuff they're doing for black men, and it's like, why can't we just do this as a whole, as a community? Like, I know they 3 of us, they can do it. I know we can do it. It's a few other names of men and women I haven't mentioned, they can do it. What can we do to get us ten people from doing it to the whole block?
right, right,
Like, I know if
right,
I can do this, 2 years ago, I was just a security guard at ECMC doing behavioral health. No nonprofit experience, no grant experience. Yeah, I had 2 degrees, but those, I wasn't doing nothing with the degrees, so it's pretty much useless.
I
In
feel
two
you.
years, if I can do what I'm doing now, I know I could easily take the 20-year-old on the block on the corner to do what I'm doing because I was in the
Right.
same place that young man was doing.
You
Unfortunately,
know, I'm
you see how
keep going,
people
brother.
come in, you see how people just come in, divide and conquer, and just have us fighting while the people behind the scenes, let's buy up all of this property while they're fighting about what's going on over here. Let them argue about what's going to happen when Buffalo Urban League comes on Jefferson. Let them argue about that. Why don't we just buy up all this property from the city of Buffalo right now, or from the developers in New York City who has no idea what's going on? Why don't we while people arguing here about whether Byron Brown should be mayor, why don't we raise the rent prices from 2,000 to 2,500 so we can kick out all the people in this area, so we can then have the white people come and get this area and become tenants, So we can raise it up even more to 4,000 a month, which gives us more money to buy more property and to kick out the residents in that area who's been there close to 20, 30 plus years.
Yeah, it's a diabolical plan, and it's working.
Yeah.
The plan is most definitely working, and it's weird. I would say being in our 30s, because we're kind of like in that middle generation or that middle time where like it's our turn to act. It's our turn to get into the game per se, and make things shift and change, for the folks who are coming after us, right? And I do the men's group, the men's mental health group, with the fellas, and it is interesting. The one brother Daryl usually brings up about how we're telling the young people, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it's like, well, what did we do for them? What did we leave for them? And he's in his 60s, and he's like, well, what did we leave for y'all in your 30s? What did we leave for y'all in your 40s? Like we're telling these teenagers what they gotta do, but we didn't do nothing for y'all. And like I'm sitting there and I'm like, dang, he giving us the game. He telling us like we gotta come together. Like we as the older men, like it's up to us, to set something up for the ones in their 20s and in their teens in order to have something to build off of. And it's frustrating because he's so right that like I'm just playing the cards that was dealt to me. Like I I don't know what I don't know. And it's a strategic plan that like the people that was supposed to teach me didn't know. The people that was supposed to teach me didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the access. So then they can't give what they ain't got. And so like that's how you set it up for generations. So you make sure that like this generation doesn't have knowledge, access, inspiration, and motivation. And then they raise kids who lack knowledge, inspiration, and motivation. And then they raise kids who lack knowledge, inspiration, and motivation, while you continue to motivate, inspire, and give knowledge to your community and your people. They're able to come over and then victimize or take advantage of or exploit the folks who lack knowledge, information, and motivation. So, yeah, it's most definitely a diabolical plan, and I think the only thing that we can do is what we're doing right now and what we've been given. I think about in terms of like city structures and like the road that's been, paved. And I say this a few times on a few different platforms, but um, like before you have an expressway or a highway, like that was, cow path, people walking through grass, and then it became dirt. Right. And then maybe somebody laid down some gravel. Right. And then maybe you had somebody lay down some bricks. And then maybe you had somebody come lay down the pavement. And then now you got a highway, right? And so now it's like, well, where am I at? What part am I? Am I at like the gravel part? Cause like I know I ain't walking on dirt roads because I ain't in slavery. I ain't living in Jim Crow no more. So like I'm not on a dirt road. Like I'm on a little bit some kind of pavement, but this ain't no expressway for us yet. And so like, or what's the other analogy? They say this generation got to crawl, so this generation could walk, so this generation could run, so the next one could fly. And I'm like, well, if I'm looking at like my ancestors that was in bondage, I'm flying. I'm flying. But like if I'm looking at like my parents, like, am I running? Am I walking? I don't think I'm flying. Because I see other people running around with jetpacks on. And I'm like, oh, so comparatively speaking, I might be flying, but like, I don't feel like it right now. This ain't the Jetsons for me, brother. So I'm always like stuck in that place of like doing my work now, but like setting up the people to come for me after because I want to give them a chance to play this game. So I definitely appreciate all your sentiments in terms of what we got to do, as Black people, in particular, as far as getting our money right, getting our minds right, getting this land right. So I think you kind of led into like my second and third questions too. But I would just say, I guess my next question would be is so what. What would you say has been like the greatest obstacle to you having true impact in our community? What's been the greatest obstacle to true impact?
It's been phases. In the beginning, it was networking. I didn't know who could I call. I just had no connections, no people I could call to give me a hookup. So it was like it was constantly for every event I did, it was coming down to the wire. For even getting a minimal amount of money. Fortunately, right now I'm at a point where I got connection with everybody in the city. During the middle stages, it's been like I said, I have no grant writing experience, no type of funding experience on how I could get money from different organizations or states. So now I'm just basically depending on community people to fund me, or people and organizations who I met that seem to like me, just asking them, hey, can you help me with this, that? Not knowing there's a process to go about this. So right now, since I got both of those two down, I'll say the biggest thing right now is how to be consistent. You see some of these, it's a lie. They say nonprofits don't make that much money. Nonprofits can be a very profitable business.
Yeah,
Although it says for every let's say $1 that goes into a nonprofit, $1 has to come out. It also doesn't say that a nonprofit can keep, I believe, man, I just forgot the statistic, but it's definitely over 70%. They can definitely keep 70% of all money that they get and output only 30%. So I say the hardest part now is being consistent and getting the amount of grants and funding. As you look at luckily one of my mentors, the people I'm learning from is Pastor Giles.
yeah.
You see the donations and checks from the state, local, federal, government checks that he's getting to keep doing what he's doing here in the city of Buffalo. He constantly tells me, this didn't happen overnight. This took close to 30 plus years for me to finally get this. And I'm definitely have an ego. I don't want to wait 30 years when I see stuff
Dude.
I could get the money for and use it now. Especially when you see a lot of these, white led DEI programs trying to help, the black youth. And it's like I'm a big proponent of, you can't help somebody if you don't know what that person's going through or been through. Now, you can't tell somebody how to overcome hunger if you've never had hunger. Now, I try
Right.
to say I can't tell a woman, how to feel or what to do going through a period, because luckily for me, I don't know what that is.
Had that. Correct.
Now,
Correct.
I could teach a young black man in the inner city how not to go stab somebody because this person, dish you in front of people. I can tell that young man, hey, don't do it. That 5 seconds of bliss, you're gonna be downtown in that holding center. You're gonna be in Attica. You're gonna be, I swear, you're gonna be someplace.
There you go.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I can tell a young black man who hasn't eaten the night before and then has to go to school the next morning and he's acting up in math, not trying to learn, the Pythagorean theorem. I know what that's like.
Because you can't eat Y plus B equal MX plus C or whatever that joint is. You can't
Yeah,
eat that right now. Can't
I'm
eat that
I'm
right now.
going off on my teacher. I don't want to hear a
Mm-hmm.
squared plus b squared. I need a snack. I need something.
Right.
Know what
Right.
it's like. You
I need
living,
3 square meals.
yeah, you living with your mother. You seeing her crying because half the roof is missing and leaking, and you see her just in the living room crying, not knowing what to do. And now you're faced with a choice, because even though at 15 or 16, you're considered the man of the house because there's no other man there. So now you have to decide: do I want to continue going to school, or do I want to go down the block? I see all the flashy stuff he wearing. I see he got a Benz. I see he got,
I need
like,
that.
what do I want to do now? That's the stuff. That's the stuff I want to do and help with young men in the community. And I know if all of these white-led DEI organizations or youth organizations, if they can get this, but they don't have nowhere near the knowledge that I do to help, there's no
Right.
reason why I shouldn't at least get half of what they're getting.
You know, I could not agree with you more, brother. I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a matter of a little bit of what Giles said. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's the political game, man. and people want to feel like they're gonna get something out of you or like it's gonna benefit them in some way. It's a weird, real dicey game that we're playing, and um it's definitely about making the connections. I think it's also about being visible. So being visible is key. I'll keep it a buck. I know a lot of people that like don't really know what I do or who I do it with or for, but like they like me and they like being around me. And like I'm on podcasts and platforms and I be talking crazy on social media and so I'm in front of people enough, and if there's a camera or a microphone and folks are shy, I've never been shy. So I think like just the willingness to be visible, the willingness to be present, I think also kind of aids in that a little bit. I'll say that just because I mean, I tell this to young people that I work with, like you got to speak up. You got to get your voice heard because otherwise you're going to watch somebody like me live your dream. And then every opportunity that you want is going to be taken by somebody like me who might be less talented than you, who might be less deserving than you. But I was unafraid to speak up and I
Mm-hmm.
was unafraid to raise my hand and ask a question or put myself out there. And then I got the resources. And please don't get me wrong. There are many a times, more often than not, I would much rather play the back of the room. I would much rather sit back and speak when spoken to. More often than not, I speak when spoken to. I don't really initiate a lot, but if you engage with me, I'm gonna make sure that like you get your money's worth. And so I think we got to continue doing that level of self evaluation where like I know those things about myself and I know my areas for improvement. And I think groups and communities are made of individuals. And I think the more we take individual responsibility for making ourselves the best we can be, the best members of the community, I think that also will have significant impact. Because I know what the Steve Harvey, not that I really like quoting Steve Harvey, not for good or bad, but I remember he said that his one of the things his dad told him, like, son, the best thing you could do for broke people is not be one of them. And I just remember thinking about that. Like the best thing I can do for my people is not be in a bad situation as an individual. And the better situation I'm in, the better situation I could put somebody else in. And so I try to stay focused on that. Um, just showing up as an individual. And then, to continue with the cliches, it's the JFK thing. So I show up asking people, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And I think that for me has always led to being able to sustain and maintain meaningful connections and relationships just because folks know that like when I show up, I'm not looking to take. I'm looking to give like my time, my effort, my talents, and my abilities, and I'll get mine on the back end. Like I'll like when it's time, like people will show up. Like I save my ass too. So last year I did a men's event, and it was a privilege to sit there and folks was on the panel. And when they asked why did everybody show up, and they was like, Sherman asked me. Sherman asked me. Sherman don't never ask for nothing. And I'm like, thank you. Cause that's exactly what my intent was. To like, I don't ask nobody for nothing. But like when I do, I hope that like you pull up and like because I really need you now. And so that meant a lot for me that like that that way of being, that principle of like, make more deposits than withdrawals. I think that philosophy it has really served me personally well. And that's something that I always offer to people too, just because that's what has worked for me.
Yeah, I can't wait to do the same. I can't wait to be LeBron James. I just can't
There we
wait to be
go.
able to call somebody up. Hey, hire this person.
Right,
It's like I'm
right.
looking forward to that day.
Right. I think that's honestly like what I've been working towards. I know with my role over at the center, we have like a lot of transition, a lot of opportunities, and that's why I like working at the Center for Health Equity because um, the folks in leadership they got a lot going on. They busy, but they trust the people that they hire you know and they trust the people that they hire to be like, hey, I can't necessarily find somebody to help with this extra thing that we just took on, but I trust that you know somebody, so bring them to me. And it's like, okay, cool. Like you giving me opportunity to give other people opportunity. I like this because that's who we all want to be. I think if you get into this work, uh, real leaders don't want more followers. They want to create more leaders. And that's always been my approach to take. So yeah, this has been a dope conversation. I think this might have been the first time that like we really had a chance to sit back and chop it up. Going back to like the whole theme of this conversation, I feel like, which has been networking with a purpose. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this has been a dope opportunity. I do want to begin to move to our third question to sort of wrap up the conversation. But it's just first and foremost, is there anything that you would like to share with our audience that you did get a chance to talk about? Any subjects, any talking points, anything that you want to promote or share that you didn't really get a chance to talk about?
Here, when is this coming out?
So this will be coming out probably say like about 2-3 weeks. I got a few episodes behind, but I'm just gonna do a big drop. So I'll probably say about 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, three at the most.
No, here, just follow Agents for Advocacy, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram.
Cool, cool. Make sure you send that to me so I can throw that in the description. And I like that. So Agents for Advocacy. Just tell me a little bit more. Tell the folks a little bit more about that. And what are you looking for folks to really support you in?
And here, the main goal of our organization, we try to spread awareness on socioeconomic inequality and systemic racism, so we can foster a reality in which one's race, one's environment doesn't dictate one's future. So over the course of 2 years, it's been how do we accomplish this? Do we want to be, just throw community events? Do we want to just have panels? What do we want to do? And after 2 years, I think it's finally coming together, in which we're going to try to have 3 programs, in which one program is for maternal health, one's for mentorship, and one's for gun violence, in which we also try to combine all 3 of these things with job fairs. We try to want to have, one, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month during the spring and summer periods.
Ooh, well, you know how it is here in Buffalo. You got to make the most out of what we get about 12 to 16 weeks of 70-degree weather, 60,
Mhm.
70-degree weather. We might get 12 weeks. So you got to make the most out of them 12 weeks.
I hope they come to the event instead of going to the beach or to a barbecue.
Right, right. And I think honestly, that's what we competing with, bro. Like we competing with that, especially here. I say it all the time, man. I only get 52 Saturdays a year, and somebody got a plan for every single one of them. Every Saturday, somebody is planning my Saturday for me. Like, goodness gracious. But I think about like, well, this is the work. This is what I'm called to do. This is where I'm called to be. And at the end of the day, this is how you build your legacy. This is how you build connections. You got to show up. You got to be what they say in that Hamilton play. You got to be in the room where it's happening.
Mhm.
Right? So, man, that means all right, we sacrificed the cookout, we sacrificed the barbecue, or that means we was gonna do daddy duty, father daughter time, or uncle time. But that just means you come with me for this event right now, and then we gonna go do whatever we gonna do after, and just like maximizing the most out of our 24 hours a day that we get. I think is incredibly important. I think also you doing work in the maternity space is excellent. I do a lot of work in the fatherhood space. And so that obviously goes hand in hand. And so I think there's opportunity to collaborate on that and really bring together folks for meaningful conversations. I think a lot of what's happening is there's a lot of dissension that's been sold between men and women, specifically black men and black women. But I see it in white folks. I see it in some Latino folks and in other cultures too. But it's been really popularized, and it's really been sensationalized in the black community, where we have this whole dynamic of men versus women, and that's something that I'm looking to address because I know I need a woman, and I feel like women need men. And it ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing to be shameful in saying that. I don't need I forgot I was on my work podcast. Woo! No, I was about to say I don't know. I don't need a puppy.
Hmm.
I know I don't need no cats. I know I don't need another car. I need a woman in my life. Those, everything has its place. And I think it's okay to say that we need each other. There's nothing wrong with that. We're designed to need each other, socially, economically, and romantically. I think we all need companionship, no matter what that companionship looks like. So I'm definitely down to have those conversations. Mentorship, that's what we do. Me and the good brother Daniel Robertson. We've collaborated on a lot of different things. He collaborates for our men's support group, and our men's support group was supposed to be for men. But we ended up getting some young men who are part of his Breaking Barriers program, but then also some of our women colleagues who we work with in professional spaces who are single mothers that work with us just in general in the community was like, well, I'm sending my son to y'all. So, so now we have a few young men in our program, and we're looking to figure out how to really mentor and engage and support these young men as the next generation. And so, yeah, we're definitely thinking about gun violence events as well. That's some stuff that I'm working on with the center. So I'll be reaching out to you to collaborate on those different things. But also, when we're talking about social economic status, I think that's the one social determinant of health people don't like to talk about. People don't like to talk about being poor. People don't like to talk about struggling and getting money and what we need to do with that money. So I'm definitely down to have that conversation as well because uh, I, I keep hearing this, and I know I'm not the most financially, fiscally responsible individual. Okay. Uh, I spend my money as soon as I get it sometimes. And so I'm not the individual that should be leading the conversation on home ownership and financial literacy. That's not my job. Okay. I know where you know what I'm saying? I know what my limits are. But there are brothers out there who know exactly what they're talking about, who have the key, who have the plan, who have the vision. They just don't have the platform necessarily. And I recognize that I might be able to say things in a charismatic, humorous way where I can get people to bend their ear and listen. I just need to be able to use that skill to turn some eyes and attention to the person who gonna take us to the financial freedom that we all need. Because I
Hmm.
ain't the one that's gonna get us there. And so just understanding how we can all be a star in our individual roles and celebrating each other and what we're good at and what we're great at. I think that's my calling and that's the role that I'm trying to do. So however I can support you, brother, continuing to lift up the platform and the work that you're working on. You just let me know if you ever need to come back on here and we got to do a special live broadcast because you got something going on. We can go live. I just need about maybe 24, 36 hours notice. Just to be able to do that with decent quality. We can do something in 12 or lower quality, most definitely have a conversation and get stuff out there. But this is what this platform is about. It's about people like you. And I appreciate you being one of our early guests on this platform because that's what this is about. Putting the eyes on people such as yourself who people may not know but who they absolutely should know in our community, brother. So yeah, is there anything else that you want to share with folks? You want to reiterate your contact information, reiterate where people can find you and how they can support you?
Ooh, and here, before I do that, like you said, yeah, I'm all for collaboration. I mean, I always say back to basics. They not getting no younger. So somebody got to take over this. I would love to have, a group of five nonprofits come together. Let's be one big entity. Then
Yeah,
that will happen overnight. We all stop fighting for these $5,000, $10,000 grants. Now we getting close to 200,000 grants.
right.
Then we can have that left over to actually pay to put people on in our organization in the community. And it's like, unfortunately, people want to, I want to be the executive director of my nonprofit. I don't want to work for somebody else. And it's like, well, you want to still be struggling, fighting for these grants, and we all win. But
Yeah,
unfortunately,
didn't.
you see too many people have just too many big egos to want to work together. And then that just gets you questioning, what's the point of me helping people in the community with people who help in the community? And although we both trying to help, we can't even help each other.
Man, man, man. I think I think that's a real conversation that continues to need to be had. I really appreciate you lifting that up, brother. Because I think those are the things that people don't talk about, that we need to talk about, that we all know is the issue. And that once we get to like the root of those issues, then we can start moving forward. But until then, we just putting band-aids on stab wounds, you know what I'm saying? Until then, we just playing, going along to get along. And I've seen that, and that's exactly why I haven't tried to be no executive director. Cause I ain't gonna lie to you, there ain't an executive director who life I want. I don't see. I just not an executive director, but I love and respect and appreciate a lot of them. Many of them have put me on, and given me opportunities to do the work that I'm passionate about doing. But I do not want their career. I do not want their job. I do not want their role or responsibility, and I don't see myself wanting it in the future. So I think, and I'm okay with that. I think a lot, a lot of folks always want to be the leader or what should be me. It's not a good idea unless it's my idea. I know how to lead because I know how to follow, and I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of knowing how to be a good soldier in order to set yourself up in order to be a good general. So I think, I don't know, brother. We about to go down a rabbit hole and continue some more conversation. But we want to go ahead and keep these joints to about folks 30 minutes attention span, and that's about all the attention span folks got. But we're gonna have you back for a part two, brother Mark Talley, whenever you want. Tell folks where can they get the book, man. Where can they get the book? How can they get the book and support you that way?
Right. Hey, if you low on funds right now, no problem. Hey, I'm there the first week after I spend my first paycheck. So in that case, you can go down. It's at the library. It's at Fitz Books and Waffles. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, also at Zawaldi Books and Burning Man. That's what they're called.
Oh yeah, so make sure y'all get that. Especially for our folks who aren't in the city of Buffalo, especially for folks like myself who were too paralyzed by that situation to really engage in the effort that I feel like I should have. I think it's a great opportunity to connect yourself with the people who were there. And we got to make sure that this never happens again in our community. And the fact that history repeats itself when we're unaware of it, that's how it sneak back up on you. So I really appreciate you for being a history keeper, keeping your mother's legacy alive, and having this catapult you into building your own legacy in our community, brother. So I really respect you and admire you for living that cliche of turning tragedy into triumph. Many folks talk about doing it, but it's amazing to be able to see somebody doing it in real time. And the other thing that I feel like we don't do enough is give folks their flowers, and tell people how much they inspire us, how much they motivate us, how much we admire them. And so allow me to do that for you, brother, as we begin to close out here.
Thank you, sir.
Um, no doubt, no doubt. Again, that's what this is about too. That's what this platform is about. So I want to thank folks for joining us for another episode of Igniting Hope Radio. Here, brought to you by the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. I am your host, Sherman Webb-Middlebrooks, lifelong Buffalo resident and full-time Black man. And again, we want to thank y'all for joining our conversation. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Click the bell so you know when we back at it with another video. And yeah, in the words of my hero, the Honorable Jerry Springer, we want you folks out there to take care of yourself and each other. Peace.